Hello and welcome to Long Beach Lens. I'm your host, Derek J. Simpson, Executive Director of the Long Beach Community Action Partnership. Our first guest on this show is the Bureau Manager for the Long Beach Housing Authority. Please join me in welcoming Alison King.
Hello.
Thank you, Alison, for joining us. Now, I said Bureau Manager, but is it more appropriate to say Deputy Executive Director of the Housing Authority?
It's interesting. I actually have two titles, two cards, two stamps. As far as the City of Long Beach is concerned, I am a Bureau Manager based on the organizational structure.
Okay.
We are a part of the Health Department, and so as a part of the Health Department, the Housing Authority is a bureau. So I manage the bureau.
Part of the Health Department.
We
Wow.
are. We used to be part of community development that no longer exists.
Right.
And since that time, we've been with the Health Department.
Now, who is your direct report to then?
Kelly Kalapi.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow, I didn't realize that. We
Yes.
were talking about Pat West, and I was thinking that. Now, Kelly, I've met and working in the community. She seems to be very cool.
Absolutely. New to the city,
From
last
Utah.
2 years,
Yeah.
but very much a part of the fabric of our city.
Right.
Deputy Executive Director is my title with HUD.
Okay.
Because with respect to their hierarchy,
Gotcha.
I am
Different
that
titles.
person.
Gotcha. Now, let's go back before we get more into what you're doing now.
Okay.
As I was reading a bit more about you, because I know you personally, and so that's cool to have you on the show.
It is. Makes me feel real comfortable.
Fisk University. Not everyone out here probably knows, but educate us a bit about what Fisk is and why you're so proud to be an alumni.
I am a Fiskite. Fisk University is a historically black college
Absolutely.
in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
It's a small school with lots of heart that produces lots of academically talented and wonderful people. We just celebrated a big year in Nashville at Fisk University,
Okay.
and I'm just happy to be alum of the school. We're a very, very connected community.
Now, are you from the South originally then?
I am from Kansas City, Missouri, the
okay.
Midwest.
Okay. And, then
And
went to Fisk.
so going to the Southeast was kind of a compromise, shall we say.
Yeah, a little bit different. I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, as
Absolutely.
you know. And interestingly, now that you say that, one of my first recruiting trips in football was to Tennessee State University.
Okay, down the
which
street.
was right down the street from Fisk. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So HBCUs, I just speak to that because for youth growing up out here on the West Coast, they don't really get to experience that. And
They don't.
I had 1 year of it, and you had your 4 years, I'm assuming. So
Absolutely.
quite unique, wouldn't you say?
It is. It really is. Tennessee State is down the street.
Right.
Meharry Medical College is right across the street. So
Very
it
good.
is a hub of education for African Americans and has been for a very long time.
Very historical. Now, fast forward to today. Now, you didn't come straight from there to California. You kind of bounced around in your career. New Orleans, I think, was one stop.
Yes.
Was Kansas City one stop as
Yes,
well?
yes.
What were your experiences there? Was it the same type of business or something different?
Well, interestingly enough, after college, I actually came here to California and worked for TRW, which
wow.
later became Northrop Grumman. I was a business analyst for the aerospace industry, and it was after working in that industry for many years that I wanted to do something that I thought was a little bit more meaningful. And that's when I made a foray into public health, actually, in Kansas City when I was there with one of my parents as they were ailing in health. And as I went to the health department as an administrative officer, later moved into another regulatory business, which was assisted housing. So I started in housing with Kansas City, Kansas Housing Authority. And after that, did some consulting work for them from New Orleans, where my husband's job took us, and then some consulting with the New Orleans Housing Authority. And ultimately, his employment brought us back here to Southern California.
Made the circle.
Yes.
Now, when you compare those two cities to what you're experiencing here in housing in Long Beach, are there any similarities, or do you see things are totally different just based on the economics and geographics?
Well, the fact of the matter is that affordable housing is a difficult resource to really be able to provide in this country, and it is always a shortage, it seems. And what makes California different is that affordable is somewhat of an oxymoron here.
Yes, totally is.
You can take the same number of families and the cost of it is substantially higher
Right.
because we're in California.
Right.
Real estate here is a whole different kind of commodity. And today, economically, we are just without a lot of available housing, and even less of it is affordable.
Yeah. Now, how do we address that when I've been in at least one or two meetings when you talk about downtown Long Beach, for instance, and
Yes.
people say, wow, the household income is rising downtown Long Beach, but it's not necessarily rising because the people who were living there have gotten better jobs. It's leaving because there are people moving into the high-rise apartments and condos, and so those somewhat gentrification of
Exactly.
the lower end wage earners are moving out. How do you see us approaching that, at least from where you sit in Long Beach? I know you don't have the magic wand to change it, but what are some of the solutions that maybe you've seen nationally that we might want to consider locally, to help with that?
One of them is an option that we are already moving toward, and that is project-based vouchers. Being able to actually preserve a certain number of units in buildings that are being developed, and working with developers to ensure that some units are going to be accessible to persons of a low income. Diversity economically, socially, racially is important. And to have the voucher program, its whole purpose was to have people see a different way of life, so that you did not concentrate people that were indigent, that they would get an opportunity to be in places where they have access to fresh foods, good schools, transportation lines. That was the whole purpose in the voucher program versus the original HUD program of public housing, where everyone is co-located in the same place. While it's not our, it's not something that we want to do by actually congregating indigent families, but dispersing families throughout the community to show them a different way of life and to move them forward in what they do. But you're absolutely right. The gentrification in the downtown area has changed it greatly, because it used to be our most concentrated area, and that is changing very much so. The challenge is that we're not really increasing numbers in the outlying areas, and so it's just decreasing overall.
Right. Now, your budget overall, as I read, is about $80 million, and you have about 60 staff. What are some of the key programs that you have going on right now?
Our biggest program is our Housing Choice Voucher Program. There are approximately 7,000 vouchers that we have been allowed to use to serve families. And the program works in such a way that we work with private landowners who are willing to allow indigent families who are determined eligible based on their income to lease privately owned housing stock.
Okay.
And that program allows families to pay approximately 30 to 40% of their adjusted income toward the rent, and the federal subsidy pays that difference.
Oh, okay.
That's the largest program, and in that program we also have a kind of a boutique program that includes case management for veterans, which is a partnership with our local VA.
That's a big deal these days.
That's a really big deal.
Right.
We have 646 of those vouchers, and we have ended veteran homelessness by going to functional zero, which doesn't mean that there is not a homeless veteran anywhere in the community, but it does mean that at a point in time we had serviced every veteran who was willing to engage in receiving housing.
Congratulations, that's a major accomplishment. And I know another accomplishment was when people were hearing that the Section 8 listing was open. That was a big deal because it hadn't been open for years, right? In Long
It
Beach.
had not been open since 2003.
Right.
And there are many reasons for that. It's very hard to tell how many that you are going to use in a given year.
Right.
Our average attrition has been between 300 and 400 vouchers a year, which is really all that becomes available at any given time, short of an increased allocation, of which there have been none other than the VASH vouchers. So, it's tough to be able to really get through a waiting list in a short amount of time.
Right.
And so this new waiting list is really a great opportunity to be able to service those persons who have become indigent, who've become disabled, who are now seniors and their income has decreased because we were not able to reach those persons other than if they were at risk of homelessness or homeless. We had some set-aside vouchers, but this opened the door and the opportunity for those persons to be served as well.
Now, you've only been in your new position as the leader of the Housing Authority for a couple of months as we tape this particular show. What's your vision, Alison, as you go forward? What would you like to see as some of the innovative things that you might do, or not so much innovative, but just some of the things that you already do that you'd like to make even better?
One of them, again, is that project-based voucher. I'd like to increase the number of those that we do with developers. It helps to provide them with financing, and it helps, again, to preserve an inventory for persons who really need that assistance. It ensures that it will be there at least for 15 years, which is what an initial contract is. The other part of that is to just encourage owners who have the units to make available to our population to do so. It's a good thing to do. It's the right thing to do, to be a part of the solutions in our community, to serve persons who could not otherwise afford to pay market rate rent. But to know that it is HUD's goal, as well as the Housing Authority's goal, to ensure that they are adequately compensated for those units. We happen to be in a very inflated market right now, which is difficult to keep up with, but to pay them a fair rate for that unit and to allow them to manage it just as they would someone who was not assisted by the program. So my goal is to really get that word out, to help people know that our program is about serving those people who are eligible and compliant, and making it a good business decision and a good social decision to serve them.
So we're almost out of time. I need to bring you back
Wow.
for your own show. But you're involved in the community, leadership, Long Beach, otherwise.
Absolutely.
Anything else that, closing thought that you would like to leave the audience with about how they may be able to support you and what you're doing in 20 seconds?
I would say, again, get the word out about what affordable housing means. It's not just for the person on the street who is homeless, but it goes all the way to someone who's a teacher, who for them, rent now is kind of out of the reach of, even the police officer.
Right.
But to continue to diversify our community with people from all walks of life.
Thank you so much, Alison,
Thank you.
for sharing, and know that you got my support and Long Beach CAP support, and we'd love to have you back and talk more about this. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we will be speaking with guitarist, producer, he's going to go on, Dennis Nelson. Stay tuned for more of Long Beach Lands.
Are you tired of the run-of-the-mill duties at your internship? Getting coffee, making copies, getting prescriptions for people you don't even know? Well, not at PadNet. We're making things happen. We're getting footage. We're making PSAs. We're getting interviews with people you're gonna know.
But I don't know how to do these things.
No problem. We have workshops, equipment, hardware, software, underwear, all for you to learn and absorb. Check us out at padnet.tv for more information.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Derek J. Simpson, and our next guest is guitarist, producer, entrepreneur, comedian, on and on. He's going to tell you all about that. Dennis Nelson, welcome to the show, man.
It's glad to be here, man. You know, it's hard to talk. I have a problem talking about myself, but maybe you can pull it out.
I know, that's why I'm in control. And
Okay, then it'll work.
And we're going back and forth here because Dennis and I go back to...
Man, we go back to sharing breakfast together as little boys.
Yes, long time. I was telling the staff when they were asking me, how did I know you? I said about 7th grade, we both got guitars.
That's right.
I gave up mine for football.
Yeah.
You kept playing yours.
Right.
We both took different paths.
Well, I used to borrow your amplifier and guitar before, because I didn't really get my guitar until the 9th grade. So I used to come over to your house and borrow the guitar and everything, because I was hearing the music at like 10 years old. And when I came back from New York, I really wanted to play. And you had the guitar and you weren't doing anything with it. So I was like, you know. I mean,
so you owe me for all of this?
You pretty much put my career, you know.
Yeah, okay. We got that on. We got that on tape.
Yeah, we got that on tape.
So Dennis, we started in Mobile, Alabama. Next thing you know, you're at Southern University.
Yeah.
Tell people about that experience.
Well, that was pretty huge because, you know, of course, I was playing around town, listening to music, and back then we had albums, we didn't have CDs, so I used to play the record so much until it started scratching, and that's in fact I created scratching. You know?
Okay.
So
anyway, go on.
Anyway, but you know, when I went to Southern University, that right there really opened my ears up to a whole different style of music, and it was called jazz. Because in Mobile, you know, everybody played blues or they played rock and roll.
Right.
But luckily, I had studied with a guy in New York, and he showed me like some incredible fingerings for a year. Because my mother said, hey, if you're gonna play, you gotta learn to read music. And so he showed me all these different styles. But when I got to Southern, they were playing jazz, man. I mean, it was like, I didn't know what was going on. So then I just, let me see, Randy Jackson from American Idol, he was there. Or Bradford Marcellus, famous saxophone player, he was my frat brother. And so I had to pick up really quick. But luckily, Mobile, you know, playing in Latin, you know me, I used to practice all the time.
Yeah.
Luckily, I was able to pick it up, and, you know, the rest is history.
Right. So you go from Southern then. We kind of separate in that regard.
Yeah.
Come back together. We end up in California about the same time, ironically, after all that time.
After all that time,
our careers. And then you mentioned I was going to say finger roll, but I will say, because that was at a point in my career where I was transitioning, and you and Thomas Dawson were working on a finger roll project. And what was that like?
Well, even before Thomas, you was helping me, because I remember I was recording records. I think we had that first song called "Love for Sale." I was recording, and then remember that? You know, because I was coming out of Long Beach and playing. The finger roll thing all came about after I was a record producer, I guess, for 20 years, writing for everybody, working with all the labels, MCA Records, Warner Brothers, Motown, Solar Records. And then I got tired of, I shouldn't say tired, but the record industry is like a roller coaster, you know. So one guy is at the top, and that's your guy. Then when he's out, then you gotta, you know, smooch up to the other guy. It just got, you know, after a while, I got tired. So the finger roll thing came about. It was me, Thomas Dawson, and a drummer named Dennis Allen. He played with Dionne Warwick. And man, we went in the studios and recorded, by far, one of the best live records I've ever recorded, In the Zone. And today, people still love that record.
Man, it's one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, that was
Is that on iTunes?
You know,
is it out there?
It's out there, but it's not like it will be this year.
Okay.
And that's because, you know, social media, iTunes and everything, it was moving pretty fast. When we did the record, I guess, what was it, 97, 98?
Right.
Man, things were moving. Technology is so fast. And, you know, so I was doing everything myself, so I couldn't keep up. So now I'm in an incredible situation where I'm going to go back and release all these records again. On iTunes and everything,
Re-release.
New release.
Do I get any writing points on anything? Did I write anything? No, I guess.
Yep. Now you do write, because you do poetry and stuff. Right. But you told me that my stuff.
But I'm on iTunes. When you get there, let me know.
But you told me my stuff wasn't good enough. Remember? That's why you didn't get any royalties.
Let's talk about. Let's talk about your current project.
No, I thought you were going to talk about my birthday with chocolate and pecans, but anyway.
Yeah, that was your parties all the time. I could count on hot chocolate and fresh pecans off the tree in your backyard. That was always fun. Those are classics. Working with Otis Williams of the Temptations right now. Tell us about that project.
Now, that is like by far, I've had the opportunity to travel with Ray Charles and deal with him. That was awesome. But being with Otis Williams, the last man standing of America's royalty, the Temptation, is by far a huge accomplishment, and for me, just to be in his presence. Mm-hmm. And I was back in Mobile. I bought a house in Atlanta. I left here about 8 years ago, bought a house in Atlanta, and went back down south because my mother was dying, so I went back down to be with her. And Otis and I, we written together and produced together. One of the records was called Irresistible. He won a Grammy, and I was a producer on it, so I got recognized for that. And we did NFL, Monday Night Football together, and we just a lot of different projects. We had a project called For Lovers Only. So to make a long story short, we're back together, and we started a new record label called 1030. And I'm like, it started hitting me the other day when I was in the studios when the artist came in, and I told him, I said, do you know that Otis Williams of the Temps is passing the torch to you? I said, do you know what that means? And he didn't realize what it meant. He's like, this guy's, I guess, 30 years old. And then it hit him. He goes like, wow, I'm getting the torch passed. And I said, yeah, and I'm right here lighting it for you because I'm the one doing the music. Mm-hmm. And it's just a great situation, man. You should hear some of the stories he tells you. That tells me of how certain songs that, like Papa Was a Rolling Stone, they wasn't going to do that song.
Wow.
They didn't want to do it. They was like, no, we don't want to do it. Blah, blah, blah. And the producer, because our artist, he didn't want to do one of the songs that we're doing. Right. And Otis told them the story. And, you know, Papa Was a Rolling Stone was one of their biggest records. Right. They've had so many. That's just an honor just to, just be in his presence. And I like to bring him here one day to the show so that you can.
We've talked about that, and I'd love to have a show dedicated to that because, as you said, he's history.
Yeah, he's not as big as me, but
Well, so moving on to then your project that you have coming out with him.
Okay.
So what can we expect, in terms of timing and everything? I know you're in the middle of
dropping
a new.
It's so beautiful. So we're in the middle. Now Otis and I used to write when he would be in town. I'd be out of town, and he'd call me. He goes like, "No, you got to come back to California." So I caught a plane. Been back, I guess, since December, and now we're in the process of mixing this incredible album. And hopefully it should be on the streets. Well, I know it will be on the street by September.
So this is separate from your album that you were talking about where you're bringing back all of your songs, correct?
Yeah, this is separate, but this will be really on our record label.
Okay.
So this will be
cool.
Yeah,
you
very
got
cool.
a lot going on.
Yeah, a lot going on, man.
Right. You hit the ground running when you came back.
Yeah.
And before you came back, you produced a movie in our hometown of Mobile.
That's correct.
Tell us a little bit about that. We got 2 minutes left.
You got 2 minutes left.
Part. So tell us about the movie.
Okay. So basically what happened was when I went to Mobile, I got into filming. I studied Final Cut Pro. I studied shooting. I could always write. So I started writing screenplays. I put this TV show together called Living in the Fast Lane where I went around everywhere I would travel. I would interview somebody famous that I knew. And I put this TV show together, and everywhere I would go in Mobile, people were laughing and say, "Oh, we love your show." So I didn't know what was going on. Then the movie came out of the show. Okay. I put the show together. I've had 5 different screenings, 3 in Mobile, 2 in Atlanta, on the floor laughing.
Cool.
Going crazy.
Cool. Well,
so
we got to get you to produce some things for PadNet TV. I hear you're interested in becoming a member one day.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I think.
We have high standards, though.
No, okay. But anyway, so just bring me something to stand on, and we can get the standards together. But I got to tell you, man, when you told me to kind of come on down, I was not expecting this sort of caliber of entertainment in terms of what you have in the cameras, the rooms, the kids. I just wasn't expecting this, and I think you've done like a phenomenal job. You did a great job when you was in Mobile at Dearborn But sometimes, I guess when you came here, people were listening and you got a free hand. And so I know when you never left Long Beach though either. You moved to Long Beach, so you are the mayor of Long Beach. You love it.
I'm not the mayor.
You're not the mayor?
But
But
I'm well respected here. And it's because, people like yourself and others in this community have supported us. We're at a point where we want to hear a little bit of what you do, but I want to say to the people that are watching us, thank you so much. We're going to end this show with a brief performance by Dennis Nelson. Listen for his name around the Los Angeles area, because when he's not in the studio, he's also doing his thing in some local establishments. But before we go, I'd like to thank Alison King and Dennis Nelson for joining us today. Be sure to follow PadNet TV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest updates. We also welcome your comments and thoughts regarding this show as we strive to make Long Beach Lens a favorite source of local news, information, and entertainment. This show has been brought to you with support from the Long Beach Community Action Partnership. Thank you for watching Long Beach Lens. And now here's Dennis.
just a little something,